This week we're going to talk about malt, which is part of beer. Malt in the industry, grains are generally just referred to as malt. Malted barley can also be wheat, oats, any kind of grain. The grains, the malt, is what contributes all of the color to beer, whether it's light or dark. Much of the flavor, some styles, almost all of the flavors from the malt, as well as it's where the alcohol comes from, because the yeast ferment the malt. Malt is made, I won't go deep into this because I'm not an expert and the knowledge that I do have on it could go deep. What they do is they sprout the grains. Well, they don't actually sprout. They germinate the grains, which activates enzymes in the grains that later can convert the starches into sugars. And then once it's germinated, then they dry it out and they, I guess, cook it to some degree, even roast it with some grains to get different colors, different sort of caramel flavors or roasted flavors. There's 1,000 different options between the different grains and the different roasts and such. Lots of choices for lots of different flavors for lots of different beers. So when I get malt, I buy it from maltsters as a finished product in bags. It's already been malted and cooked and kilned and roasted or whatever. I have my recipes that call for this much light malt and this much dark malt and this much oats or wheat or whatever. These things all contribute different flavors. Some things, it's where the haziness comes from in beer, from wheat or oats. There's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of things out there, but it's a lot of different ingredients for recipes, a lot of different options for me to come up with delicious combinations. For example, something like Narwan, it's very light. This is just 2 kinds of very pale malt that go into this beer, along with a little bit of hops. It's a very simple beer, light and clear and crisp. A stout would start out with something similar as most of the grain, but then you would add probably some oats, which gives it a thicker, creamier mouthfeel. And then the roasted malts, which honestly look and almost smell like roasted coffee. That contributes the roasty flavors and the dark color to a porter or a stout. And then something like Orange Crush or a Hefeweizen or something like that light, almost tart flavor and the haziness in the beer, that comes from a high proportion of wheat. It will still have some barley in it, but there will be a lot of wheat in those beers, and that's where that tartness and the haziness come from. I could go on and on about more different things, but that's a deep pool to jump into. So we'll cut it short there. So there is more to talk about with malt and other ingredients. If you want to know more, if you want to talk about it, come on in the tap room, grab a beer, and we'll talk about beer. I love to talk about beer. Figured we'd talk a little bit about yeast. I know we have mentioned before, talked a little bit about the difference between lager yeasts and ale yeasts. And I guess I can kind of run over that a little bit briefly. Lager yeasts, to make it simple, lager yeasts ferment at cooler temperatures, ale yeasts ferment at warmer temperatures. When yeast are fermenting, they're converting the starches and sugars in the barley or sugar or fruit or whatever it might be, converting that into alcohol and carbon dioxide. People like to say in beer, at least homebrew people, like to say that yeast will pee out alcohol and fart out carbon dioxide. It's not exactly what's going on, but kind of. They also produce different chemicals and compounds as a, side benefit of the fermentation process. Generally speaking, when they're at their preferred temperature, they produce less of these different flavors. This is where lagers, fermented cold, come out very clean. There's very little yeast flavor in a lager when it's brewed properly. Ale yeasts ferment are happier at higher temperatures, and they produce more different flavors. Some of them are very distinct, like a Hefeweizen or a Belgian style beer. The yeasts used for those, they produce a lot of flavor. Some of them are a little surprising or even weird. So like I said, a Hefeweizen or Belgian strains, a lot of times brewers will use less yeast than they should or ferment at a higher temperature because they're after some of those flavors. Yeah, so there are cases where you don't necessarily want it to be as happy as it could possibly be because the different flavors that's producing is something that you're after. And that's with, again, a Hefeweizen. Sometimes you get like a banana flavor out of it. Sometimes it's like baking spices, cloves, that sort of thing comes from the yeast, and there's always going to be some of that with that yeast, but it's you get more of it when the yeast is a little bit stressed. Here in the brewery, we use primarily ale yeasts, and we use stuff that is happy fermenting in the 70-degree range, a few degrees above, a few degrees below, because I don't have equipment that has temperature control for fermenting, so that works well for me here. That being said, I do use a number of different yeasts here. I use an English style yeast for dark beers, some of the IPAs. I use an American yeast for lighter beers because it's cleaner, it ferments closer to how a lager yeast does. There's a specific yeast that I use for my hazy IPAs. There's a German yeast that I use for the Kolsch, and it's used somewhat in our sour ales also. At its very base, beer is water, barley, hops, and yeast. And water does have an effect on the beer flavor, but for the most part, as long as your water isn't terrible, it probably has the least amount of the least effect. We talked about malt a couple weeks ago. Hops is a huge subject, but I think most people have an idea of what hops contribute. Yeast there's a lot more going on with yeast than what most people realize. Yeah, you could take the same beer, the same water, barley, and hops, and brew that same beer with a handful of different yeasts and come out with similar but yet different beers. They'd likely all look the same. One or two of them might turn out a little bit hazy, just a tiny bit, but the flavor would be different in those beers. There's literally multiple books written about all this stuff with yeast. This is just kind of an entry-level introduction to another ingredient in your beer. Coming up, we've got trivia on Wednesday. We do trivia every Wednesday at 7 o'clock. We do 6 rounds of trivia, 10 questions each round. Each round is a different category, widely varied subject matter. There's always going to be something that you're going to know. If you like trivia, come on in. It's a really good time. If you've not done trivia, you should come in. It's a really good time. Along with the trivia, we are doing our year-long trivia competition.
It's the Brockoppbrewing 52-week Trivia-astical Big Fat Smarty Pants Trivia Jam Bash. There will be no actual deaths during this trivia contest.
We're tracking points for all the teams cumulatively over the year. In July, we will have our championship night. The top 7 teams will come in and compete for trivia. One team standing. There will be prizes, there will be a trophy, there will be bragging rights. So if you're coming into trivia, It's not too late. There's a lot of time left. You can sign up to partake in the year-long contest. Or if you don't want that kind of pressure, just come in and play trivia for the night and have fun with us. Speaking of the competition, here are the standings. Thursdays here at the brewery, we do a pizza special. Every Thursday we do 1 Johnny B's frozen pizza and 2 pints of beer for $20. It's really good frozen pizza, it's really good beer. $20 is a hell of a price for something like that. So if you don't feel like cooking on Thursday, come on in, we'll take care of you. Other things coming up, we haven't done any art kind of classes, parties kind of things in a while, but we've got a couple of them coming up. On Tuesday, the 12th of November, we have got a Christmas tree painting, ceramic Christmas tree painting party with Peterson Pottery from town here. So your mom or your grandma may have had one of these ceramic Christmas trees with the little plastic lights that lights up from the inside. That's what we're making. So you don't have to make the whole thing, it's pre-made. You come in and paint it, and Petersons will take it and glaze it and fire it, and you can pick it back up here at the brewery. We have all the information on that is on the social media pages. You do need to sign up for that, and spaces are limited and it's filling up. So if you want to get in on that, get a hold of us pretty quick. Then on Monday, December 2nd, we're doing a sign painting class with Dakota Design Company. We did several of these last year, and people really have a lot of fun with it. It's the rustic, crafty kind of wood signs with cute or I don't know, it could be cute sayings, some of them are funny sayings, some of them are heartfelt. You know what I'm talking about, I'm sure. You've seen these things. Yeah, and these things fill up too. You got a little more time on that one since it's not till the beginning of December, but the information is on the Facebook page, but you do need to sign up for that one as well. So if you'd like to participate, get a hold of us, get a hold of Dakota Design, and get signed up. If you are in charge of planning an upcoming holiday party for work, for family, for a group of friends, and you need some space to do it, the brewery is available. You can, if you've just got a couple of people, just let us know and we can reserve a table. If you've got a bigger group, we can reserve the whole place for you. Just get a hold of us here at the brewery and let us know what you're looking for, what your dates are, and we can get you set up. All right, that's all I got for this week, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. I am Scott, and this has been the Beer of the Week.